customer, and think about from the customer's angle.
Mhm.
When stuff's going up $1.50 a unit, it's really hard for me to put my arms around that.
Mhm.
So I try to control it as best I can, but most of this is out of my control.
Jackson indicates retaining ownership of the old Save-A-Lot building has allowed him to stock up on certain items and buy them before they are either short because of the supply chain or the prices go up significantly. Get the latest in local news anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com. We are 26 minutes ahead of the hour here on this Monday morning. Partly cloudy skies, 12 degrees, 1 degree below zero wind chills this morning.
Local information that makes a difference. Here's your regional weather.
Sunny today, a high in the lower to mid-30s, a wind chill between 0 and 10 degrees, a south wind tonight at 10 to 15 miles an hour. Tonight, partly cloudy, lows around 20 degrees. Tuesday, sunny, highs in the mid-40s, a southeast wind at 15 to 25 miles per hour. Tonight, Tuesday night, I should say, cloudy and breezy. Temperatures around 40 degrees, a south wind at 15 to 20 miles an hour. Tuesday night, wind gusts in excess of 30 to 35 miles per hour. A 50% chance of afternoon rain on Wednesday. Cloudy and breezy, highs in the mid-50s, a south wind at 20 miles an hour. Wind gusts Wednesday near 40 miles per hour. Rain overnight Wednesday, changing to freezing rain in the early morning hours. Wednesday night temperatures around 30 degrees. South winds shifting from the north after midnight at 15 to 20 miles an hour. And wind gusts Wednesday night around 35 miles per hour. New rain Wednesday night between 1 and 2 inches. Early freezing rain Thursday, possibly mixing with snow in the afternoon. Temperatures Thursday around 30 degrees. North winds at 15 to 20 miles an hour. And wind gusts Thursday in excess of 30 miles per hour. Friday, sunny and calm with a high of 30. Across central Illinois, as we roll through this Monday morning, right now in Bloomington, 15 degrees, 16 in Hayworth, it's 16 in Leroy and Farmer City, 15 in Champaign, 16 in Monticello, 18 in Decatur, 19 in Lincoln, 21 in Springfield, 17 in Peoria. 12 degrees, cloudy in Clinton, wind chills of 1 degree below zero, southeast winds at 10 miles an hour, 80% humidity, 10 miles of visibility on this Monday morning. Get the latest in local weather at DeWittDailyNews.com.
I'm Noah Atkinson, owner at Lincoln Printers and Sign Designs in Lincoln. We honor area businesses and nonprofit organizations by being the exclusive sponsor of the WHOW WEZC Lincoln Printers Business of the Month.
The Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau has been the gateway for Clinton for decades. As a strong advocate for local business and tourism, the office promotes Clinton's chamber members, hotels and motels, as well as hosting a number of yearly events to attract people to the Christian County seat. They'll receive a $200 gift certificate good at Lincoln Printers and Sign Designs for being our WHOW WEZC Lincoln Printers Business of the Month. Nominate a business you'd like to see featured by emailing us at WHOW@randyradio.com.
Lincoln Printers and Sign Designs congratulates this local business for being part of our business community. And don't forget, when you need envelopes, wedding invitations, signs, banners, vinyl wraps, and more, find us online at LincolnPrintersInc.com.
You and your loved one will love living here at Eagle Ridge Supportive Living in Decatur. Marketing Director Carla Thomas here with some comments from one of our happy residents.
Everything's took care of properly. It almost looks like a resort compared to what it is. A very enjoyable place to live.
Eagle Ridge in Decatur is affordable to everyone. Call me, Carla Thomas, for a tour at 217-872-1282. That's 217-872-1282 and start enjoying supportive living.
Let's swing open the farm gate together every day on WHOW. I'm Stu Ellis, your host of the long-running agriculture feature called The Farm Gate. I bring the latest news and information on where agriculture is and where it's going to WHOW Ag listeners several times a day. From tariffs to treaties, from the Board of Trade to the running board on your truck, I cover Central Illinois agriculture every day on the Farm Gate. Hear it all on WHOW's many platforms, on the radio or online. Join me, Stu Ellis, for the Farm Gate.
You're listening to The Morning Show on the Big 1520 across Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams live to Facebook Live and YouTube, and it's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. On the phone with me for this segment of the program is Jim Bohannon of the Jim Bohannon Show. Here, Jim, weeknights from 9 to midnight right here on WHOW and our many online platforms. Jim, a good morning to you, sir. How are you on this Monday morning?
Thank you. Good morning, Seth, and happy Valentine's Day to you and all your listeners.
Happy Valentine's Day to you as well. We appreciate you making time for us as always. And Jim, I don't know if you were one of the millions to watch the Super Bowl and enjoy or not enjoy some of the commercials and the game. What were your activities last night? Did you get to watch the Super Bowl, and what'd you think?
Yes, I did watch the game. Certainly as Super Bowls go, a lot of them have been clunkers, quite frankly, over the years. There have been some real wipeouts. A lot of teams, I think, kind of fold under the pressure. This was a very good game, back and forth, very competitive game. One of the best Super Bowls ever, I think, just in terms of the excitement of it all, back and forth, and then the last-second heroics of the Rams winning at home. It was interesting to just watch it. I wouldn't call it perfection, but let's put it this way. There was great execution. The two quarterbacks lived up to their billing, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the commercials, honestly, at times it was hard for me to tell what it was that they were pushing. And then once I figured out what it was, were they persuading me to buy? I mean, you don't spend $7 million for 30 seconds just so you can say, hey, here we are. I mean, you're supposed to get some money worth out of that. If I were a shareholder in some of those companies, I would have to be asking, why were you wasting $7 million? I didn't see any appeal to get people to buy and enhance our stock price. In terms of the halftime show, I got to be honest with you. The one word that hit me throughout the entire Super Bowl, the entire halftime, was subtitles. Subtitles would have been really handy because I couldn't understand a word that was being said. What I heard was humba 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 humba. That's all I heard. Mary J. Blige at one point did actually maybe accidentally lapse into a song with actual lyrics, which seemed to be fine enough. But I remember in retrospect thinking there was concern that something untoward might be said during the halftime, like somebody might curse or something. And my response would have to be the question, why were you concerned? We couldn't understand a word they were saying. They could have cursed up a storm. Maybe they did curse up a storm. I couldn't tell. And the choreography was well done, certainly the costumes and all that. The supporting effects, if you will, were quite impressive. But in terms of actually hearing a message, I always thought that rap and hip-hop were supposed to convey some kind of a message. I must confess that I'm not sure what message was being conveyed, but as I say, the choreography was nice. So.
Sure. I must confess, Jim, I actually didn't watch the halftime show. I was putting kids to bed at that point. It feels like every Super Bowl, the first half winds down, and then it's time for kids to go to bed. And so I missed the 45-minute halftime show, and it takes about all of that to put a couple of little girls to bed, and so did that, and then got back to the game. So, I don't feel like I missed a whole lot based off of the Twitter reaction and what you're saying.
I missed a whole lot, honestly. I mean, I didn't watch it, having known that it was going to be a big celebration of rap and hip-hop, which are not two of my favorite entertainment media. I wouldn't have watched either, but I knew I was going to be having discussions like this on your show and discussions on my show, so I felt kind of an obligation to at least tune in and watch the halftime show. Certainly it did nothing to change my previous inclinations. I've never been a fan of hip-hop or rap, and nothing that transpired caused me to become one.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm not opposed to it necessarily, although some of it's more radical inclinations, in which they can get pretty violent at times, and violence toward the police, toward women, this sort of thing. That certainly didn't do anything for me, but I didn't hear anything to that effect on the Super Bowl halftime show. So again, as I say, well, okay, that was it. Well, fine. I'm happy to see that my previous inclinations were well founded. I never cared much for it, and I still don't.
Yeah, I've got a couple of buddies that, excuse me, that mentioned that they enjoyed the halftime show. Those were artists that they grew up with, that we grew up with, and so they mentioned to me in passing last night, just talking about things that they enjoyed it. But yeah, so Super Bowl, another one has come and gone, and so off we go here this morning. Jim, again, Jim Bohannon of the Jim Bohannon Show, my guest. You can hear Jim 9 to midnight right here on WHOW and our many online and digital platforms. Jim, let's talk Russia and Ukraine, and it sounds like things are getting pretty serious. What is the latest from your perspective, and what could we potentially see going forward? How about those things?
Well, we of course have heard there was a German publication that said that the Russians will invade Ukraine on I think it was Wednesday. They got very specific about this. Not sure what exactly their basis for that specificity was. This would still be during the Winter Olympics. The number of Russian troops who are apparently on vacation in the cold weather around Ukraine, because they're not there to threaten Ukraine. We have that on the word of Vladimir Putin himself. So I guess they're just all enjoying the delightful winter weather. That's grown to 130,000. This is rather interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Vladimir Putin has a yacht, a super yacht. It's named Graceful, and it's worth about close to $100 million, I guess. Yacht. It was in Hamburg, Germany, being repaired. It suddenly departed before the repairs were completed, as if Putin was afraid that his favorite toy might get impounded by sanctions. So that was a rather interesting development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And so, Jim, I'm curious. You mentioned the Olympics. What's the correlation there? Like, why would Russia wait, or why would the Olympics impact Putin's plans for Ukraine?
Because Russia and China are very much working in concert these days. In fact, the presidents of Russia and China had a little summit meeting at the opening of the Winter Olympics in Beijing. And so goes the theory, since China is by far the senior partner now in that little coalition of evil. But the Chinese economy is on the order of 10 times the size of the Russian economy. So China, as the senior member, so goes the theory, the Chinese had told the Russians, let's let it have a successful Olympic Games. President Xi of China, who first came to prominence by getting the 2008 Summer Games in Beijing, is trying to become dictator for life, and interrupting those games might not necessarily be good for him. There are those who say that if these Olympics do not go well for Beijing, that Xi himself, his hold on power, might actually evaporate. That theory was that the Chinese would prevail on the Russians not to do anything until the Olympics were over. Now the German news report and this departure of Putin's yacht might point in the opposite direction. Nobody knows. And in fact, I think that President Biden could well be correct when he says that Putin probably doesn't know. He's a mercurial kind of impulse action individual at times, and he may not know exactly what he's going to do either.
What should the U.S.'s role be in this conflict?
Well, if there is a conflict, I think that as it has been stated, the role is pretty fine. That certainly we should not encourage the Russians treating Eastern Europe as their personal playground, just so that Vladimir Putin's obsession with the West and his paranoia can be satisfied, and so several tens of millions of people can go back under the thumb of the Russians as they were during the days of the Soviet Union. Forget it. I mean, that's not worth it. We're obviously not going to get involved in a shooting war with the Russians, but if in fact the Germans are telling the truth, and really in the middle of winter they are actually prepared to cut that Russian gas pipeline, why they ever allowed it to be built in the first place is phenomenally stupid of the Germans. But if they're really so prepared, that would undercut the Russian economy terribly. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that it could survive very well. And so that cutting of that pipeline, if in fact it happened, alone would give Vladimir Putin pause, I think, moving forward. So it's our role, I think, to make sure that the NATO alliance realizes we're there for NATO. And of course, Ukraine is not a member of NATO. NATO has a key provision in Article 5 of the NATO Charter, which is an attack on one is an attack on all. So, for example, if Putin were to make moves on the three Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, which were once not just satellites of the Soviet Union, but like Ukraine were once part of the Soviet Union, the West, any incursion there would have to be answered by force by NATO, and then you would have Russians and Americans shooting at each other. But if Putin is that stupid, then there's no way around that. NATO would fall apart if, in fact, they didn't hold that up. Our role to date of economic sanctions and bolstering our NATO allies strikes me as the correct role.
How do you think President Biden has handled the situation, Jim?
Well, of course, his whole authority and credibility has been undercut by the debacle of Afghanistan's withdrawal, and that hasn't helped any. He has played the role of Neville Chamberlain, who in 1938, of course, signed a deal with Hitler that handed over portions of Czechoslovakia to Hitler, and then Chamberlain went around talking about peace in our time, when in fact, of course, he had emboldened Hitler the next year to attack Poland and start World War II. So overall, his role has been terrible, but then again, what else is new with this administration?
Very good. Jim, anything else on that situation we didn't touch on you want to put out there?
On what, regarding Ukraine?
Ukraine and Russia, yeah.
Nothing that I can think of, no.
Very good. Jim Bohannon of the Jim Bohannon Show, our guest on the phone. We'll take a break here, come back with more. The WHOW Morning Show streams live to Facebook Live and YouTube, and it's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. More to come on the WHOW Morning Show.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Monday. I'm Jim Taylor for the RFD Radio Network. Corn, beans, and wheat all starting the week lower. March corn opening 646 1/4, down 4 3/4. May corn down 4 3/4, 645 3/4. December corn starting today 590 1/4, down 4 1/2. March beans opening 1564 1/2, down 18 1/2. May beans down 16 1/2 to start the day, 1569 3/4. And November beans opening 1435, down 9. March wheat 786 1/2, down 11 1/4. May wheat down 11, 793. July wheat 790. That's down 8 1/2. March bean meal opening 450.20, down 640. March bean oil 65.37. That's down 35 cents. Look at the opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Monday morning. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
New trucks and SUVs are coming here at Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton. This is Scott Baum. Yes, we have new inventory arriving, and you can see what will arrive right on our website. Just click on the pre-order and reserve tab. From there, you will find vehicles in transit and vehicles in production. Or just call our sales staff and we'll help. Find Silverados, Equinoxes, Blazers, including Tahoes and Suburbans, as well as our complete Buick line of SUVs. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
MR Systems Wireless has an immediate opening. They're looking for a full-time internet installer to perform the initial setup of wireless internet and voice over IP services, as well as troubleshoot and repair wireless and phone services for customers. You'll be responsible for the basic installation and maintenance of wireless equipment. No experience necessary. Includes health benefits, mileage reimbursed. Starting pay is $15 an hour. Find out more and apply by going to mrsystemswireless.com, then clicking About, then Employment. Equal opportunity employer.
This is the Morning Show on 92.3 FM in DeWitt County, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence, and the WHOW Morning Show streams live to Facebook Live and YouTube, and it's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, Jim Bohannon of the Jim Bohannon Show joins us here this morning. You can hear Jim's show 9 to midnight on WHOW and our online and digital platforms as well. Excuse me, Jim, as we talk here this morning, of course, let's dive into a little bit the Friday, really a series of unfortunate events. Multiple police across, I think, 4 states shot, killed, and some wounded.
13 officers were shot and wounded in 4 states on Friday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. A sad, sad day for the law enforcement community for sure. And, Jim, just overall, I mean, it just feels like the nation's respect and regard for law enforcement only diminishes on a daily basis. How about that aspect of this story?
Well, certainly in some areas, that's certainly true. But even some areas, only in a handful of people. In some urban areas where defund the police Democrats are in control, you have, in fact, seen that kind of attitude. But if you're one of the constituents of those folks living in one of those areas and you can't get the police to answer a call, you own a business and it just got ransacked by people stealing things, because in San Francisco now you can steal up to $950 worth of things through, quote, shoplifting, unquote, and it's not a felony. I don't think the people there are feeling particularly sanguine about this. But again, hey, you're the ones who elected these clowns. Why do you keep voting for these people? And in some cases, you have people like Cori Bush, the true low-life, and I emphasize that, low-life representative from the city of St. Louis, Missouri, who has personal security, but she doesn't believe that the individual residents of her congressional district deserve security. In other words, I'm taken care of, and the rest of you can go to hell. That's the kind of attitude that we're seeing. So I think it is an attitude that is seen in a very small handful of people, but I don't think that the vast majority of people are idiotic enough to pretend that there aren't some people out there who are just bad characters. And we would love a magic wand that would make them all good. But there is no such thing. And until we can figure out a way to make them all good, we've got to separate them from the rest of us. And that means police, and that means prisons. And again, there are some people out there who, as long as they're taken care of, they don't care what their constituents have to undergo, including death in some cases.
Jim, what does this issue move the needle at all, you think, in the primaries later this year? I wonder about that.
The primaries, the general election in particular, there are very few Republicans who would be vulnerable to being in favor of defunding the police. I think it will have a much greater impact on the general election. There are some districts, of course, out there that are probably 90% Democratic, and it may not change their representation. But instead of somebody like a Cori Bush winning re-election with 90% of the vote, they might win re-election with 75% of the vote, which means they're still in power. But I think that it definitely it will have an impact on the election. I mean, there are a few things that are more vital, a concern, even beyond the economy, than the safety of your family. And if there are people out there who, well, I don't know, boy, the Democrats certainly have endangered my family, but gosh, I always vote Democrat. If you're that stupid, then do us all a favor. Kindly don't vote.
And Jim, one thing about crime that I had this conversation with a local representative we have here in our community, and I said, the thing about crime is oftentimes, you see the headlines and you read about it and you hear the stories and all those things, but oftentimes it's one of those things that until it hits home, until it impacts you, perhaps it's not as a front of mind as other issues.
Well, perhaps so, but I mean, let's face it. If you, for example, if you live in a town, my guess would be that Clinton is a fairly peaceful place. Smaller communities tend to be. But if you live, let's say, on the south side of Chicago, and maybe you and your wife and your kids have not been attacked, but 3 friends who have, another person who was killed in one of these assaults, that strikes home. That strikes home. And so I think that's easier to say, well, it hasn't affected me, if in fact it's distant, it's far away. Oh, that's happening in Chicago. That's far away. But if you were just a couple of blocks away, I think it's a little harder to make that equation.
Yeah, for sure. That's fair. That's fair for sure. So, Jim, as we come up on the final few minutes of our time together, I know that the Durham investigation continues on, and conservatives have voiced their, displeasure, I guess, with the time it's taking in that investigation. But sounds like some movement out of it. What's the latest?
Certainly the Durham probe now says that people connected with the Hillary Clinton campaign hired hackers to not only crack into servers with the Trump campaign, bad enough, but the Trump White House, which is pretty close to being a case of treason. Now, I know there are those who have complained that Durham is moving slowly. He wants to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, and that is true. He didn't move quickly enough to have major findings that could have impacted, let's say, the 2020 election. Certainly his findings impacted, I think, to some extent, what happened in 2021, and will have an even greater impact in 2022. But he's not a political animal, John Durham. And slowly, yeah, but again, he needs to be sure he's got everything lined up, because he's going to face a tremendous amount of pressure from those who have a vested interest in protecting, let's say, Hillary Clinton, who may be directly involved in this, and who now is, it looks like she might think about running for president again in 2024.
Jim, what do you have coming up on the show this week? What can we look forward to?
Well, we'll be covering all of these issues and more. Those basically, we've pretty much given a rundown of what the week will look like. Coming up this week on the Jim Bohannon Show, 9 to midnight.
Very good. Jim, always good to have you, my friend. Thanks for taking time with us. Jim Bohannon of the Jim Bohannon Show, our guest here. And again, here, Jim, weeknights from 9 to midnight on WHOW, online at DeWittDailyNews.com, and our many online and digital platforms as well. Network news on the way.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM, W222 BG Clinton.